Paneer makhni is a lovely dish and it's a great way to use paneer. But for me, it's all about the sauce, and I've spent many years trying to perfect my sauce and get it to the right consistency and the right colour for the way that I like to serve it. For this dish, I like to use red onions. So just very roughly chop your onions and pop them straight in. You don't need to be precise about this, which is why it makes it a really nice dish to cook. So I've used 2 fairly largish onions here. There we go. I'm also going to pop in 4 roughly chopped pieces of garlic. I like mine fairly warming, so I'm going to put 3 chillies in, but you can put in however many chillies you like. Keep it fairly mild if that's what you want to do. So just, again, roughly chopping those, putting those in too. I'm also going to grate some ginger, so about a tablespoon of ginger, just grated with the skin on. Pop that in. I'm going to put in 4 cardamoms, just cracked, and straight in. I'm going to put in a few peppercorns and some cassia bark, which is going to give a lovely sweetness at the back of the dish. Just break it up and just pop it straight in. Also going to add just a teaspoon of salt. And then I'm going to cover it with some water. So just make sure your onions are all covered in water. So you don't need it a lot, but just so that it's covered. I'm going to leave this for a few minutes just until it comes to the boil, and then I'll add in my next set of ingredients. It's just come up to the boil now, so into that I'm going to put in a whole tin of tomatoes. Make sure you get all of the sauce, all of that tomato in there. Give that a stir through and then just reduce the heat because it's just coming up to boiling temperature again. And once it's boiled, I'm going to reduce the heat and let that reduce down because what I want is a really nice, thick, aromatic sauce. So it's just starting to boil. I'm going to turn that down, pop the lid on and leave that for about 15 minutes, but I will keep coming back and checking on it. It's been bubbling away for about 15 minutes, so I'm just going to check that the consistency is right. Lovely, it's reduced down by about half and it's thickened up beautifully. So I'm just going to turn that off and bring the pan over. Be careful because it is hot. I now want to blitz all of that sauce so that everything breaks down and we get a really lovely sort of smooth, creamy sauce. Ideally, you can just wait and let the sauce cool down and then blitz it, but I'm just going to go straight into it. That's looking really nice. I'm just going to give that a stir. Just make sure there's no unblended bits in there. Just make sure that everything's been blitzed through. But that's the sort of consistency that you're looking for. A lovely, thick, rich sauce. The name of this dish, Paneer makhni. Makhni refers to the buttery or the creaminess. So the next stage is all about how we add that wonderful creaminess to the sauce. The first thing I'm going to do is just heat up some ghee. Just pop that into a pan, probably about a tablespoon of that. Just let that melt. And then I'm going to start toasting some of my spices. So a teaspoon of cumin seeds. And just as they become fragrant, what I'm going to do is pour in my tomato sauce just to give it a little bit more of a lift. So they're starting to sizzle away and I can just smell the aromatic coming through. So I'm just going to give this a little stir and very, very gently pour this in there. It will spit, so be careful. It's like a volcano. I don't want to lose any of my sauce, so I'm just making sure I get all those last little bits. There we go. I'm just going to turn it up just a touch so that we can start to cook the tomato sauce through with the ghee. I'm just going to start to add all of my other spices. So into that, I'm going to put in half a teaspoon of turmeric. I'm going to put a nice big tablespoon of fenugreek and then a teaspoon of some Kashmiri chili powder as well. Just get a teaspoon of coriander seeds, and that's for a little bit of zing really, but I want to bash those in my pestle and mortar first just to bruise them and get the fragrance coming through. I'm looking to crush them as finely as I possibly can. There we go. The fragrance that you get is really, really quite fresh. Almost like a lemony citrusy zing to it. I'm just going to stir that in. And just let that simmer away just for a couple of minutes. Be careful because it will almost plop up and down. So put it on a very gentle heat and just let that all come together and all of those fragrances come together. So my sauce is pretty much there. Whilst that cooks for a little bit longer and just comes together, I'm just going to go and grab my homemade paneer. My sauce has thickened up beautifully. Into this, I'm going to pour in some cream, and that's the makhni part, and you know, the decadence, the real thick, creamy lusciousness, if you like. So I'm just going to stir that in. I'm going to turn my temperature down because I don't want this to boil. I just want it to warm through, and you get that beautiful colour. Beautiful reddy orange colour to this sauce. It smells really quite intense. It's got a really sort of spiciness to it. I'm just going to check the seasoning because I've got a feeling I probably need to add just a little bit more salt. It's really nice. I'm just going to put just half a teaspoon of salt in, just to balance the flavours and the creaminess out a little bit. So my sauce is perfect now and I'm really happy with it. So I'm going to go in with my paneer. I'm going to let this cook for about 5 minutes just so it has time to absorb that beautiful sauce, that richness. And just coat all of that paneer in that lovely sauce. Look at that, it looks beautiful. So I'm just going to leave the lid off that and just let that simmer through just for a few minutes. I'm going to finish the dish off with a nice heaped teaspoon of garam masala just to bring together all the flavours that we've put in the dish. Stir that through. And then it's ready to serve. It's a beautiful way to serve up some homemade paneer And just to finish off, I'm going to sprinkle on some fresh coriander for some beautiful colour.